Bewaard een goede middag bij weer een nieuwe aflevering van Supreme Exclusive. En in Supreme Exclusive hebben we deze keer een speciaal exclusief vraaggesprek met de ambassadeur van Israël, de niet-residerend ambassadeur van Israël in Suriname, die voor een speciaal bezoek naar Suriname is. En die reden van het bezoek, dat zult u horen in het vraaggesprek dat wij zullen hebben. Maar het heeft alles te maken met waar wij op dit moment zijn. Dat is de historische plek van Joden Savanne, die het vorig jaar door de UNESCO is benoemd tot werelderfgoed. Suriname had dat jaren terug gevraagd. En uiteindelijk is het dus nu goedgekeurd dat wij dus Joden Savanne als erfgoed, werelderfgoed erbij hebben. En dan wil ik meteen gaan naar de ambassadeur. Ambassador, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And the name of the ambassador is Itai Bardov.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Spoken like an Israeli.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome here at Joden Savanne.
It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yes, and I've heard this is your first time here. Not your first time in Suriname, but your first time on this special site.
Absolutely. It's my second time in Suriname, but here I couldn't, last time my schedule was so tight, I couldn't visit Joden Savanne, so I said the next time I'm coming, I have to come here. And this is an appropriate time to come after it was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site.
Okay, you have seen some of these the places here, the special places here, shown to you by Mr. Selbing.
Yes.
Your first impression?
It's amazing to me. I knew a bit more what to expect because we had a delegation, archaeological delegation, visiting here a few months ago from Israel that we funded. They came here to explore the site and to confirm what the UNESCO needed in order to recognize it as a heritage site. And they sent me a very detailed report with pictures. So I knew what to expect, and still being here is not the same. Really seeing with your eyes and the explanation that we've been getting about the artifacts that are here, the homes that people lived in. So to me, it's fascinating. I'm having an amazing time here.
So why is it so important for you to come here today?
Well, I think, the Jewish people, we are 15 million people in the world. I think people expected a larger number than that, but we're only 15 million people in the world. And it's very important for me as the ambassador for the only Jewish state to support Jewish communities and Jewish heritage wherever I can. And because I am also ambassador to Suriname, it was important for me to come here, see the origins of the Jewish life in Suriname that started here, more or less, and to try and support this place. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to see how can we support Joden Savanne, the renovations that are needed, and to make it into an attractive touristic destination, supporting Suriname in attracting tourists to Suriname and having Joden Savanne as one of these attractions.
So why is it so important for both Suriname and Israel that this is kept preserved?
Well, it's part of history. It's part of Jewish history. It's part of Suriname history. I think history is so important. When it's negative and when it's positive. It's so important. We say that you cannot preserve the future if you do not preserve the past. So history is so important to me. Again, as an ambassador of the Jewish state, and I work with Jewish communities in the region, it is important for me to come here, see the place, and try and see how we can develop it.
So you were talking about it a little bit before. What will Israel especially contribute to keep it this way?
Yeah, well, first of all, we sent that delegation of archaeologists to here, and thanks to that delegation, now this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So that was a very, very important contribution to the site. And secondly, now I'm in touch with IDB and to see with other relevant partners to see if there's any way we can assist or support in the renovations, to continue the excavations here. So that's why I'm here, to see how we can support and what can we do together with other partners.
And you've seen some of the special places now.
Yeah.
What struck you the most?
Well, it was interesting. The homes they lived in. I mean, of course, the synagogue that I learned today was also a social center that had a court and other functions. And seeing the homes that were burned down, but to see the size of the homes, and the fact that what I learned today, that even today's practice, that each house had a separate cooking house, where they did the cooking, and that was interesting for me to see. And we haven't finished. Once we finish this interview, I'm going to see the cemetery and the other places. So it's just fascinating. We're talking about, you know, the 1600s. It's just and it's coming back to life here. So it's just fascinating. For me, as someone who loves history, I'm amazed to be here.
Yes, there's a meaning of the people preserving this to make it a tourist site for people to come here. Um, will you also support part of that plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, the importance of this is, first of all, a historic site where the Jewish heritage in Suriname is recognized. But secondly, absolutely as a touristic site. And I think this could be an attraction also for Jewish and Israeli tourists to come here to Suriname. It's a little early now. You have to develop the area and make sure that it's suitable for tourists. But I think that the potential is absolutely there.
There's a war going on
Yes.
after the cruel attack of the Palestinians or the Hamas
Yes.
on the people of Israel, and after that, you went full force attacking them up till now. Yes,
So
people are saying, or the critics are saying, from the Israel side, it is disproportional. Do you agree with that?
Well,
or why not?
absolutely not. And at first, I just have a small anecdote. Even the connection of Suriname to what's happening in the Middle East. What I mentioned before, I'll just repeat that. When UNESCO recognized Joden Savanne as a World Heritage Site, they did it in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And this was the first time during a NAT conference, UNESCO conference in Saudi Arabia, that an official Israeli delegation, including a minister and members of Israeli antiquities, were in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, officially, as part of the UNESCO conference. And one of the reasons that Hamas decided to attack Israel on October 7th was their concern of Israel warming up and warring relations with Saudi Arabia after the Abraham Accords, where Israel struck peace with Bahrain, the Emirates, Morocco, Sudan. Saudi Arabia was probably the next in line, and Hamas was getting very concerned because for them, they want this stability, not stability, instability, and that is probably one of the reasons why they attacked Israel in such a terrible way on October 7th. Now, Israel is doing everything it can, everything in its power to put civilians out of harm's way. War is a terrible, terrible situation. It's horrific. My heart goes out to any innocent person, whether it's a person from Gaza or an Israeli that is killed in war. But it's impossible to prevent civilian casualties. The question of proportionality, if we ask that question of proportionality during Second World War, Germany would have come out to be the right side, because more German citizens, much more, hundreds of thousands of civilians, German civilians, were killed in the war with the Allies, but yet we know that they were not on the right. What Israel has to do, firstly, it has to defend its citizens against a terrorist, barbaric, brutal terrorist organization, Hamas, which has, after October 7th, declared that it will continue. They say we will repeat, officially, we'll repeat October 7th again and again and again. Their charter officially declares the annihilation of Israel. So Israel has not the right, but the duty and the obligation to its citizens to defend itself. We are doing it in compliance with international law. We are allowing humanitarian aid, and I'm talking about thousands and thousands of tons of truckloads of humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. We are working with different organizations, UN organizations, to make sure that civilians, as much as we can, are put out of harm's way. We have declared humanitarian corridors and humanitarian areas to make sure that civilians are put out of harm's way. It is impossible not to have civilians hurt here, because Hamas is operating from within civilian areas, from residential areas, from schools, hospitals, mosques. They're firing, they're launching RPGs and missiles from those areas, and they're hiding among civilians. So the task that Israel has is so big, it's so huge. But again, Israel will do everything it can in compliance with international law to put civilians out of harm's way.
But despite all your efforts, South Africa brought you
Yeah.
to criminal court
Yeah.
because of they saying you are committing genocide
Yeah.
and even violating human rights.
Well, it's important to put this in context because South Africa, unfortunately, South Africa has been in cahoots with Iran, which is the main funder of all these terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas. You have these militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, are all being funded by Hezbollah. And South Africa has had a very close relationship with Iran. They had a delegation, a Hamas delegation, just 2 days after the October 7th attack, the massacre. They had a delegation of Hamas into South Africa. So South Africa has a very close relationship with Iran, with Hamas. Unfortunately, they've done this as a proxy, a political proxy of Iran, dragging Israel to the ICJ. Israel has decided, even though we do suffer from discrimination in international organizations, we have decided that we will come because we know that we are right. We are presenting our case. We have proven that what South Africa has shown was incorrect. We have come with the facts. And we're waiting, we're now waiting to see what the ICJ decides. But I have to say that there are many, many countries around the world have sided with Israel in saying, Western democratic countries sided with Israel, saying that what South Africa did was wrong, they should not have done that. And that includes the United States, Great Britain, Europe, Germany, Canada, and other countries that have said that this was absolutely wrong by South Africa after. I want to ask you, as someone from Suriname, if God forbid Suriname would have been attacked by a terrorist organization that would have infiltrated the homes, the cities, villages, civilians, a dance festival, young people, brutally murdering them, beheading them, burning babies in front of their parents, raping young women, mutilating them, kidnapping. 240 people were kidnapped into Gaza, including non-Israelis. How would any other country react?
Yes. So the latest is your foreign minister, Israel Katz, presented, raised some eyebrows presenting, that was said, presenting a video where part of the solution is to build a kind of island for the Palestinians.
Well, no, it's an option. This is a plan that it's a plan that he's been going on for a long time. It's not for the island offshore of Gaza is supposed, that's where he wants to build power plants and other measures that would be able to supply Gaza with energy and water independently. We think they should be independent and that they should be able to rule themselves independently in everything that has to do with self-sufficiency in water, and energy and so forth. It's not instead of Gaza. It's to support the people of Gaza. That's part of his vision for the day after, after the war is over.
So is there in your opinion or in Israel's opinion a place for a two-country settlement in this war?
Well, Israel has for 5 times in its history, there have been offers to the Palestinian side for a two-state solution. Listen to Bill Clinton, who was United States president in 2000. He said Palestinians could have had a state for 23 years now if Yasser Arafat, who was the leader of the Palestinians at the time, would have accepted the very generous two-state solution. So we don't want to rule the Palestinians. We want them to self-govern themselves. There are, and October 7th proved it, there are security needs of the Israelis that need to be addressed. So we do not want to govern the Palestinians, but we want to make sure that they cannot be a threat over Israel. Now, Israel left Gaza in 2005 completely under Palestinian rule. In 2007, Hamas took over in a very bloody coup, violently killing Palestinian Authority members, throwing them from rooftops, dragging their bodies in streets. And since then, we've been faced with a barrage of missiles, of terrorist attacks. The West Bank, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank is a much more dangerous region for Israel. And if Israel leaves it, we have to make sure that our security is ensured. And that is not the case right now. That is not the case. That is placed in a strategical area where millions of Israelis, very near to the vicinity of where millions of Israelis are, the Israeli airport, the international airport, the center of Israel, the bulk of Israel. So we want them to govern themselves. We do not want to rule them, but we have to ensure that strict security measures are in place to ensure Israeli security.
So, two questions to conclude this. Is it necessary for Israel to keep attacking Gaza and Hamas, taking into consideration all the casualties and how do you call it, harmless people are being killed, going on with these attacks, and on the other hand, taking into consideration that is there room for a peaceful settlement, permanent peaceful settlement in this case?
So first of all, this war is not our choice. It was forced upon us. We were surprised on October 7th. We did not elect this war. We did not choose it. It's a no-choice war. This war can be over tomorrow if Hamas surrenders and releases the 136 hostages that are still held in Gaza. I'm going around with this. This is a symbol. A lot of Israelis are going around with it. It says that our heart is held hostage in Gaza and bring them home now. If Hamas surrenders and releases all the hostages, that's it. The war is over. They do not want to do that.
And then you will release their hostages in return?
Oh, well, first of all, we've already, there have been proposals on the table that Hamas has rejected because they want to continue ruling Gaza. Even though they've been ruling Gaza with an iron fist, they've been a dictatorship in Gaza since 2007, no elections, with an iron fist. They want to continue by force to rule Gaza. We cannot allow that after what they did. No country would allow that. So this war could be over. And by the way, amongst the hostages, at least 11 are non-Israelis. They're from Tanzania, Nepal, Thailand. Hamas is keeping them hostage as well. We've offered to do hostage swaps, release swaps. They have now, after the first phase, they do not want to do that anymore. They have not agreed. They're keeping these hostages as leverage in the worst conditions possible. We don't know what the situation is, including a 1-year-old baby, his 4-year-old brother, all the way up to 85-year-old people who are being held in tunnels in sheer darkness, young women who we know are being sexually abused. So we cannot allow ourselves, no country would, to stop now and allow Hamas to continue, hold their hostages, and continue ruling and continue being a threat over Israel. But this can be over by tomorrow. The pressure should be over Hamas that initiated this whole thing. They're the ones responsible, and they are the ones who should end this by surrendering and releasing the hostages. And your second question, sorry, what was that?
Yes, is there room for a permanent peaceful
we have
settlement
to always
in
strive.
any way?
We have to always
how
strive.
that is in your vision?
No, yeah, well, we have to always strive for for peace and for a permanent solution. And I think if we need that faith, we need that hope, because otherwise the situation will continue for decades and centuries. So I believe at the end of the day that there is room for that. I think right now.
Do you know when?
Well, I think right now the situation is so bad, the mistrust there. We cannot trust Palestinians that in Gaza that were led by Hamas, that they will take care of our security, of course. So we have to make sure that guarantees are put in place. But I will repeat this and again. We do not want to rule the Palestinians. We want them to govern themselves. We want to live together, side by side, to contribute to each other, to benefit from each other. You know that prior to this attack that took place on 7th of October, we had people, Palestinians from Gaza, working by the thousands, tens of thousands, working in Israel and making 3 times the salary that they did in the Palestinian territories. And they are the ones that are paying the price now because they're not working in Israel now. They've lost their livelihood. They are suffering from this. And I think if both peoples want to live in peace and in tranquility, we have to strive for a solution between the both of us living side by side. We are there, they are there. It's a fact, and we have to recognize it. It's going to take some time, especially after what happened on October 7th, but I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic
So
person.
coming back to Suriname, we are at Joden Savanne. How can Joden Savanne contribute in any way to a peaceful solution?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't know about Joden Savanne, but Suriname should support our request for the full release of all the hostages, and should support the Gazan people allowing to have a new government that is not a terrorist government, that is obligated in its own mind to the destruction of the state of Israel. But they have to support an entity that will rule the Gazans, that will be looking to live side by side with Israel, and not to exterminate or eliminate the state of Israel. So that's my hope.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ambassador.
With a pleasure. Thank you very much.
En dat was dus de ambassadeur van Israël, laat me zijn naam goed uitspreken, Itai Bardov, de niet-residurant ambassadeur voor Israël in Suriname. En hij is speciaal hier, zoals hij net weer eindigde, voor het bezoek aan Joden Savanne, waar wij op dit moment zijn. Die dus kort geleden, het vorig jaar, is gemaakt tot werelderfgoed door de UNESCO. We danken u voor uw aandacht en wensen u een prettige kijktijd verder. Ik ben Jeff Kramer. Tot dan. Dag.
This is another Supreme production.
Supreme TV.
To entertain, to inform, to inspire.